Hello, busy show on the way. So it's a Champions League evening and a Champions League knockout evening at that. Benfica against Liverpool. Manchester City will host Atletico. Dan McDonnell is with us between 9 and 10 to watch the action as it comes to a close. Tommy Welch joins us after 8 on the hurling. And then this hour, Miguel Delaney, he was in Qatar last week for the World Cup draw. We're going to pick his brain on the experience and what he learned about World Cup 2022. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, you're there.
How are you, Joe?
And Ronan Mullen in studio.
Hi, Joe.
Early news that Guardiola has gone for a 2-3-1-4. Ederson up front. Raheem Sterling fly keeper. He's been looking at all the angles here and he's cracked the code. He's ready to go. Yeah,
he took exception yesterday to people pointing out that he is a penchant for possibly overthinking things in the latter stages of the Champions League. People have that suspicion, Joe, because he does and has on several occasions, not least the Champions League final just gone, where, like, having deployed a central defensive midfielder for his entire coaching career, decided to forego it entirely against Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel. So, like, even looking at this lineup at a glance, they have so many players to choose from. There's always going to be omissions, but possibly not the team I would have picked. But the Atletico dynamic is an interesting one, where both teams will be able to play the game they prefer here, where Atletico can camp in and try and hit City on the break with individual moments, and City, to that end, will be happy to keep the ball and dominate possession. So it's just who can deploy their tactics better, I suppose.
Now, this is the week, Ronan, where Freddie Couples often makes me swoon, makes me feel good. And he got in early. Usually it's first round leader, but he got in early this week. He was playing with Tiger Woods and Justin Thomas in a practice round. And he said Tiger Woods is hitting the ball unbelievably. He said the driver is like a machine. Said the irons, amazing. And he said Tiger didn't even bother putting out in lots of holes because he's Tiger Woods, he knows how to put. So Freddie Couples was saying if he can walk around for the 4 days, he's in this tournament.
And he seems to have dispelled any notion that it's even a question now. Like, there was some talk yesterday, was it, of game day decision and possibly seeing literally how he feels when he wakes up Thursday morning. But by all accounts, and those accounts in particular, he's good to go.
The decision has been made. He was speaking this afternoon. He's locked, he's loaded, he's ready to go. He's playing Thursday morning, 10:24 local time. So what's that? We're kind of 3:30 territory here. You'll be able to get all the shots in the app. So
I'm not averse to the coverage, Joe. Like, anytime I do frequent those apps or the golf websites, the top 5 stories are always Tiger Woods, Woods' son. Fair enough. It's totally fair.
Yeah.
Like, in layman's terms, for people, we'll know WrestleMania was on last weekend and they brought Stone Cold Steve Austin back 19 years after his last match to have another match. And, the parallels are obvious between Stone Cold and Tiger Woods. But is there a sense that golf, is it a bit disconcerting that golf is still leaning on an ailing force, I'm going to call him, a departing force to this extent?
A bit. It's a disaster.
Like, who is the...
There isn't one.
Like,
nobody else. There's nobody else.
Speaking from obviously a casual point of view, the Bryson element did seep into the... No, but I'm just saying from an outside perspective here, the Bryson element did seep into the WhatsApp groups, and this is pretty odd. What's going on here? Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So there are elements to that, and Brooks Koepka, can get behind that a little bit.
Briefly.
Those are the kind of bits. Whereas your Jordan Spieth, Joe, I hate to break it to you.
Careful.
They're not crossing over.
Careful. He transcends the sport, right? Yeah, no, I totally accept what you're saying. Only Woods really transcends the sport. I mean, I think in this country, for us, because we love our golf and we don't have that many global superstars, McIlroy's a big deal. Harrington, of course, an enormous deal. And Larry as well. And people are getting on board the Seamus Power bandwagon as it's leaving the station. But, I mean, you think, say, the States, for instance... Only Tiger Woods has transcended golf in the last 20, 30 years.
To be fair, like, I'm picking on golf here somewhat. But he transcends sport as well. Like, it's very few sporting fields have a figure of that renown that they can point to. Like, basketball, that's Michael Jordan. Football doesn't have a unique one where you're like, that's certainly the one. I think there's a sense in America that's like Pele crosses over to an extent that probably Messi and Ronaldo still don't. He's just kind of the name that goes.
I'd be worried Beckham crosses over more than Messi and Ronaldo.
So, like, in his defence, he's transcended a lot more than golf. He's transcended popular culture, sports, news, everything.
Yeah. Richie, I think it's where you're starting your news round, in fact, so we might crack on. It is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. I didn't see his press conference.
There was a lot in it, To be fair,
Oh,
he
yeah?
kind of went into detail against what he's battling. Among the confidence that he can actually do well this week. But top of the shop, I guess, is that Tiger Woods confirming that he will play at this week's Masters. The 5-time winner of the green jacket has been practicing at Augusta since late last week, and he'll play a further 9 holes, he says, tomorrow. He played alongside Justin Thomas and Freddie Couples yesterday, as you mentioned, as he gears up for a first tournament since November of 2020. Louis Westhuizen and Joaquin Niemann will be his partners on Thursday morning. The Masters will be Woods' first time striking a ball in anger since his horrific car crash in February of last year. He required a rod to be inserted in his tibia, with rods and screws to be required to stabilise his ankle and foot injuries. And this all came after a 5th back surgery. But despite all of that, Woods is feeling confident.
You've said countless times throughout your career that you don't enter a golf tournament unless you think that you can win it. So the question is simple. Do you think you can win the Masters this week?
I do.
And what have you seen in your preparation that leads you to believe that?
Well, I can hit it just fine. And I don't have any qualms about what I can do physically from a golf standpoint. It's now walking is the hard part. This is normally not a easy walk to begin with. Now, given the conditions that my leg is in, it gets a little bit more difficult. And that's 72 holes is a long road, and it's going to be a tough challenge, and a challenge that I'm up for.
Can he win it, Joe? He seemed fairly certain.
Now, he always feels certain, even when he's had some horrific days. Back in 2015, when things were looking especially grim, and on several of his back surgery comeback trails, he was embarrassed almost, like he had chipping yips. Podrick Harrington told a story on this show of in the locker room, a TV was on as Woods was struggling just to chip a ball, and they turned off the TV. They were like sad to see it, and probably also worried just by seeing it there might be a degree of contagion. It was that horrible. So he always feels he can win. That doesn't mean he always has won. If he does win, I think it's the greatest sports comeback and also potentially greatest sports story in the history of sport, period. What am I not thinking of there?
Well, we had a similar conversation after he won the Masters a couple of years ago.
19.
And the one that I would have argued at that time was Muhammad Ali, expulsion, quote unquote, from boxing to come back and dethrone the most fearsome heavyweight of all time, George Foreman, when Ali was well past his best. And the tactical acumen he showed in that fight, coupled with the reasons he was dispelled from the sport of boxing and what the stands he took. Like, if you put that swirl all together, it's a difficult one to argue with. But in pure sporting terms, I think this would be certainly right up there, if not outstripping it. And then I think the texters on that evening were pointing to, was it Nicky Lauda, the F1 driver?
Nicky Lauda, yeah, for sure.
So those are, it's a very small list, I would say, of those kinds of achievements.
Yeah. I mean, it still remains a huge if. He's been out for 14 months. He nearly died. His
Longer,
back
really.
was already in tatters. Like, the thing to remember with Woods is, post winning the 19 Masters, he really was a dwindling force after that. That seemed to take so much out of him. He wasn't in contention thereafter. Like at Port Rush, he was a shadow of a man. Missed the cut, got the hell out of there, looked in terrible shape. So even coming into 2020, just before the car accident, I would have said, okay, he's had his swan song. And now that's happened, and we're on another 14 months. So it's hard to imagine that with a card in his back pocket, which will be a serious weight on Thursday for the first time in so long, that he can produce. I would think his approach is going to be hang in there on day one, shoot a 73 or a 74, do something a bit better on a Friday, warm to the task, keep hanging in there, maybe a good Saturday, and Sunday, can you be within the last 4 groups and have your name on the leaderboard and hope that others around you wilt, as they did in 2019, because quite a few of them wilted. Molinari, Koepka, Finau all went into the water on 12. It was actually extraordinary. So I would think that's his thinking. And look, the Masters is such a small field. You've got like 90 guys. A bunch of them are like Sandy Lyle and the lads, so you can forget about them. You've got a bunch of rookies, they never win. You're into pretty elite company almost straight away. So I would think he can hang with them, because there is no dominant player in the world right now. Scotty Scheffler is the world number one. Now, if Scotty Scheffler walked in here with a T-shirt saying, I'm Scotty Scheffler, I'm still not sure you'd know who he was.
Sure wouldn't, Joe.
So, as I'd say, all of these things are swirling around Woods' mind, and if he can walk, then I don't know. I mean, it's an idiosyncratic course where memories and know-how really come into play, experience comes into play. But
That was a striking line in his quote there, that walking's the hard part.
yeah.
Do you know, like even in black and white written down, that's a hell of a statement.
Well, I would love to know if he's played 18 holes 4 days in a row yet in his recovery.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Today, like he was talking today, and he said that they played 27, which I think he was alluding to the back end of last week when he flew in, and that included the par 3. He was saying so he played 27 in one day, which is a hell of a lot. And since then, it seems to have been 9s. And obviously, you know about more than me. Like the constraints of your practice time are kind of pretty heavy at Augusta this week, because obviously everyone's flying in, everyone wants a shot. So he's been restricted. He did 27, would have been Friday of last week, Thursday or Friday of last week, 9 Sunday, 9 yesterday, another 9 tomorrow. Like there's no way he's racked up that necessary amount of golf and pressure golf.
Yeah.
That you'd have to put together to put together a decent score.
Yeah.
Over the week in Augusta. So like it's a tough ask. It really is.
Yeah. Pressure golf is the key point. Absolutely
Yeah.
agree. Texting, dead right, lads. Let's face it, nobody cares about Cam Smith or Justin Thomas. Somebody else says Shane Lowry will absolutely do for us. Globally, though, the game is in trouble post Tiger. Ali was 32 years old at the Rumble in the Jungle. Hilarious to think how past it everyone thought he was. Tyson Fury is 33 now. I guess 32 back then was
and like
37 now.
The amount of fights Ali had in his resume compared to Fury, you know, it's miles on the clock rather than pure age terms.
The thing about golf and transcending and all that, and Christian Eriksen's a good shout, by the way. But the thing about golf and transcending, like there actually is very few that have managed to do it. There's Arnold Palmer, there's Jack Nicklaus, there's Seve, there's Tiger.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you're probably reaching.
I think so.
To be fair.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that's doing well.
In their pockets. McIlroy here, of course, and Ernie Els, I'm sure, in South Africa, but globally, yeah.
I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, Joe, but is there
I suspect I will.
Is there, possibly, is there a conceived or a considered point where people point to and say that was the peak of Tiger Woods?
2000.
For sure.
Yeah.
Without question. So we are talking like 22 years after the fact.
Yeah. And
just like Stone Cold.
There you go.
It was an outrageous peak. He won 4 majors in a row. The Tiger Slam.
Well,
he won the US Open by, Mick will check outside, I think it was like 19 shots. Ernie Els walked off and said, well, I won the tournament I was in. Finished second. It was devastation. It was carnage. It was absolute carnage. To win 4 majors in a row is frightening. Like, let me give you a point here. The current world number 1, who we've dissed, Scotty Scheffler, in world ranking points, he's world number 1 with 8 point something world ranking points. Tiger at his peak had 32. Like Phil Mickelson was hanging around sometimes on 11, 12, 13 world ranking points and couldn't get within a sniff of world number 1 because of Tiger. The lads now are all on 8 and they're world number 1. Like, for him to be 32, he's 4 times better than the current world number 1, whatever that means. So Rory was talking as well. 15 shots clear, mixed checked. 15 shots clear. 12 under. Second place was 3 over.
No, I was just going to double check. I think what I would consider Muhammad Ali's peak was 66. That's Cleveland and Williams, which people should look up. It's only a couple of rounds to fight, and it's just majestic. It's like choreographed beauty in how he put it together.
Was he at the 60 Olympic Games or 64?
60.
60. So then 6 years beyond that.
So and then he didn't fight Foreman until 74, I believe.
Okay.
So that's 8 years is still a long time, especially in boxing. But relative to, we're talking into a third decade on from Tiger's peak, that he's even in this conversation is remarkable.
Remarkable. We should press on. 46, by the way, is a special age around Augusta. That's when Nicholas won his last Masters in 86. McIlroy then, nobody's tipping McIlroy, Rich, in so much as I can see.
Not really, no. His form pretty cold after a miscut last week in Texas and just 2 top 10 finishes on this year's tour. That includes a win at the CJ Cup. Despite all of that, he feels he can construct 72 holes capable of winning a first green jacket.
I would say my game's it feels in good shape. I think it's felt better than the results have maybe suggested the last few weeks. And I think the big key here, you look at all the previous winners, especially over the last 5 to 10 years, their iron play and their approach play has separated them from the field. So that's that's a really important part of your play this week. And as I was just saying there to Jimmy, it baits you into going for flags that you shouldn't go for. So again, it's about being very disciplined with your approach play, knowing that if you hit a wedge to 20 or 30 feet, that's okay. Middles of greens, you hole a few putts, you that's what it's about. It's about hitting greens. It's about playing to the fat part of the green, being somewhat conservative, and that's what wins you Masters. I mean, obviously you see the highlights of people hitting, heroic golf shots around here, but that's just one golf shot. The rest of the time they're doing the right things and they're being patient and being disciplined, and that's what wins you green jackets.
That's McIlroy then. Golf Weekly recorded, done, up and ready for you this afternoon, bumper edition. Richie, Dan Levy, this is desperate news for a 27-year-old.
Yeah, contrast the Tiger Woods news with this. Dan Levy says he can't ask any more of his body with the flanker forced to retire at the age of just 27. He's been unable to fully recover from a serious knee injury sustained in March of 2019, which initially saw him sidelined for 18 months. But a series of comeback attempts, particularly this season, have proved fruitless. Levy won 5 of his 11 Ireland caps in the Grand Slam winning season of 2018 and was a Champions Cup winner with Leinster.
Brutal. He was a phenomenal player. I mean, he really is a big loss. Dan Levy at his best was such an asset to Ireland. So 27, that's a bitter pill to swallow. Burned brightly but briefly and win a Grand Slam, win a Champions Cup. But
that Grand Slam, he was
tough.
He was like 2 players
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
His contribution was incredible.
Yeah.
So and there was always a sense he'd get a second act, and it just never came. It's very sad.
Very sad. So we'll move on to the football then. Champions League to come in a moment. Football here at home as well.
Yeah, Sligo Rovers have the chance to go second in the SSE Electricity Premier Division table tonight. The Bit of Red welcome an out-of-form Bohemian program. Kickoff is at 7:45. While Liverpool's quest for an historic quadruple has taken them to Lisbon tonight, they play Benfica in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final. But Liverpool have lost on each of their last 3 visits to the Estadio de Luz, old and new. For Liverpool tonight, Alisson starts in goal. Familiar back 4 of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson. In midfield then, the trio of Fabinho, Naby Keita and Thiago Alcantara. And the front 3 is Luis Diaz, Sadio Mane and Mo Salah. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, Man City boss Pep Guardiola has laughed off suggestions that he overthinks his tactics in Europe. The Premier League leaders welcome Atletico Madrid to the Etihad tonight. Ederson starts in goal for City with a back 4 then of João Cancelo, John Stones, Aymeric Laporte and Nathan Ake. In midfield, Rodri is alongside Ilkay Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne, while Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez and Raheem Sterling are their front 3. It's gone for a back 5 has Diego Simeone for Atletico tonight, so Jan Oblak starts in goal for them. On the right hand side of the defence is Seymour Versalco, Stefan Savic, Felipe and Reinildo are their central back 3, with Renan Lodi on the left hand side. Jeffrey Kondogbia, Marcus Llorente and Koke are in midfield, with João Felix in behind Antoine Griezmann. Kick-off in both games is at 8 o'clock.
Okay. So there were reports over the weekend that Mo Salah is going to stay with Liverpool, and word from Egypt is that is the case.
Yeah, Egypt's sports minister, no less, says Mo Salah has decided to stay with Liverpool. Talks over a contract extension have laboured, with the Egyptian star's current deal expiring in the summer of 2023. Jurgen Klopp said yesterday that he's happy with how talks are going, but Ashraf Sobi has gone one further. Speaking to local media, the sports minister said he met Salah after last week's World Cup playoff defeat to Senegal, and Sobi's quoted as saying, "I have advised him to continue his journey at another club other than Liverpool, but his decision now is to renew his contract at Liverpool."
I think Mo Salah having to take advice from the Egyptian sports minister about his career. And just sit there and nod, listen to this guy saying, "I think you should leave Liverpool." The word over the weekend was he wanted certainly $500,000 a week. The Liverpool offer was and is 400,000 sterling a week, and they've agreed on 400 sterling a week plus an extra year, so 4 years in effect. And he's happy enough with that, so he's going to stay for 4 years, which effectively for him is the rest of his career.
And 400,000 is a lot. I know there's a notion that Liverpool didn't want to belie their wage structures, but that is a significant marker.
I'd take it.
For incoming players. Well, certainly. But I didn't think they would go to that extent. I thought it would have been something like...
But why do we keep talking about Liverpool as if they're like this lowly club just trying to get by? They're not Crystal Palace. They're Liverpool.
It's the metrics just going off how the Henrys do things. If you look at the Boston Red Sox, they've let top players go and just looked, if you want to go all Moneyball on it, they've decided we can replace Mo Salah with 3 players, and that's typically how they've done things in American sports. But Salah's just such an emblematic figure of what this Liverpool represents, short of Klopp himself. Letting Salah go even at 30 is it would seem premature. And to be fair, it hasn't exactly been paved out that he has a huge amount of suitors. Not that everyone wouldn't want Mo Salah in their team. It's just they look at the age profile as well, and that the players or the teams who are in a position to sign a Mo Salah are probably more looking at Mbappe or Haaland. And that's the reality of this summer.
Best comeback of all time, Hermann Maier, the skier, says somebody. In 01, he almost lost a leg in a motorcycle accident. In 04 in Italy, Maier won his 4th World Cup title. Maier, a major celebrity in the world of winter sports, where people call him the Herminator, says Mark. Yeah, it's not a bad one. Yeah. Colin Coakley, Tiger's like a boxer who keeps coming out of retirement for one last shot at glory. From a non-golf fan, it's sad to watch, to be honest. Colin, he won the Masters in 2019. He won like 2 years ago. Major winner.
I think now though there is, and especially after we talked about it on the show after the car crash when we talked about potential comebacks. Said that it's surely at 46, with all the money he's earned, with all the titles he's won, with the trouble that he's been through on the family front, there comes a point where you just have to relax back into things and kind of treasure what you have, not chasing what you might have.
But no, I take the point, but he's not hitting the road to slog it out on the PGA Tour 25 weeks of the year. He said he's going to play the majors, pick and choose his events. He's 46. Nicholas in the 1980s won a major at 46. Phil Mickelson just won a major at 50. We're not talking about Evander Holyfield here.
But even still, to put that kind of pressure on yourself, because you don't just rock up at the majors and, decide to put together 4 rounds and you're happy enough to walk away. There's a lot that goes into it.
I know, but what else would he be doing?
Nothing.
Exactly.
I would literally, if I had his money and his stature in life, do absolutely nothing at that age.
I know what you're saying, but after 6 months, you'd be bored out of your mind. You've got to remember, he has spent 14 months recuperating. He spent the first 6 months of 2021 inside effectively on a bed.
Yeah, this is it. Like, I think to put some amateur psychology on it, I presume this was some sort of a target for him in his recuperation that, if things go to plan, hopefully I can get back to an event like this. And as much as he's saying he thinks he can win it, I think even getting out there will feel like some sort of vindication or symmetry or closure for him.
I have half a feeling he'll finish up better than Rory McIlroy at the end of this week.
That is the second biggest story that can emanate from this, surely, this weekend, if Rory somehow comes from it. Like, I mean, I don't mean in Irish terms, I mean in global terms.
In golfing terms,
yeah.
Because he would join immortality.
Yeah, so if one of those two things happen, Joe, we'll have a good show Monday.
I just don't want Richie to win the lottery if he's going to lie around and do nothing.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, I won't even need to be 46. I could be, I'm 3 months shy of being 40, and I could do absolutely nothing tomorrow and be quite happy. And there's no chance of me getting bored. I've got shelves full of books here that I have to get through, Joe. I'd be happy enough to do that.
Richie would definitely buy bows.
You'd be bored. If you won 50 million, are you telling me you'd retire and, to use your quote, do nothing?
You would never see me again, Joe. Ever.
I would appreciate that, but I'm just wondering, would you do nothing?
Absolutely nothing.
No, you get bored.
Literally, absolutely. I genuinely wouldn't.
You'd be at the Masters as well.
Maybe, yeah. I can see if they'll take a fee.
Yeah.
And let me in there. I can play alongside Sandy Loyal and see if I can do better.
Oh, exactly. Okay, so we'll probably preview the Masters tomorrow, and Golf Weekly's up now. We are going to take a short break. We've got Miguel Delaney waiting on the far side. Richie, thanks very much.
Nice, lad.
And Ronan Mullen, thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's Cash Machine.
Now, over €1 million has been won so far on the cash machine since we started, including another €10,000 today. The machine has been reloaded tonight.